Greetings. Today we're going to be painting a Brazen Minotaur. It's an Assault Intercessor with some custom pieces from different kits. We've got a Mark 7 helmet from the Firstborn Tactical kit. We've got a Power Sword and a Mark 10 Bolt Pistol. Not sure which kit they're from. For the shoulder pad I've got one from the Deathwatch Veterans box. This is usually painted as a Tauren, but it works for a Brazen Minotaur as well. I've airbrushed this with a black primer, and we get started with Retributor Armour first. So the Brazen Minotaur is a brass Minotaur, that's what brazen means. So we're going to be going for a brassy sort of finish. Retributor Armour is a more gold, but we'll be darkening it to give it some more shadows, and then we'll be lightening it up later to give it a more brassy appearance. We can also give it some weathering to, show that it's not just gold. But for now we're going to be stippling on a bunch of the Retributor armor now, making sure we get, all over it. We don't need to worry about getting it in spots we don't need it, because we can paint over that later. Most important part is just coverage at this point. We need a full base coat. It's hard to figure out what sort of finish they actually intend based on color plates. It's hard to show reflectivity, so I believe that this is probably supposed to be a bit more shiny, because it is meant to be metallic. I don't know. Let's see how we go. And here's how it looks when we're about halfway done. Now when you are finished, you want to go at it with a dry brush, a nice soft brush. Retributor armor's got a bit of chunk in it, at least my pots do, the ones that I've used. So we want to just brush it off to essentially polish it. And then we'll go in with some shade. We'll use the Seraphim Sepia. I'm still using an old mix. The newer version doesn't tint as much, but it should give you a similar result, especially considering what we're going to do after this. Now you want to go all over this thing. Everywhere you've put gold, you'll want to put the sepia. You don't want it to build up too much, but also you want to see the effect, because this gold is not going to look anything like this at the end. It's going to be much more silvery. So because we're putting so many layers on, you might want to have a thicker layer here. So now we're moving on to dry brushing. This is how we're going to layer up the armor. So I'm getting some golden Griffon. Now this is going to make it look a lot more silvery. We'll bring back a tinted yellow or brass color with the following step. Now this is my experimental model. This series is meant to be a thing where I just try different paint schemes for all the different chapters. It's both a break from me from my normal chapter, and also just for a bit of fun. I figured if I show you how I do it in my experiments, you might be able to take something away from that. And it does look cool. Already I'm liking the appearance. So now we're going to mix some Sigmarite into this. This will bring a much more yellowed tone to it. As you can see, it's a lot more yellow now, much more like the color plates. You might think it looks too dusty at this point, but later we're going to put some weathering on it to bring it down a bit. We're going to mix some Necron compound and some Sigmarite to make the final shine. It's only a touch of Necron compound. And this is just on the topmost surfaces, anywhere that you think the light would be reflecting the most. So now we're on to Corvus Black for the undersuit, the armorial, the weapon casing, and the tubing beneath the power pack. I'm now applying Ulthuan Grey to the pauldrons. You'll need 2 or 3 coats to build up coverage. And now we're on to Corvus Black for the armorial. So in the colour plates, the Brazen Minotaur is a 5th Company Marine. Seems the Brazen Minotaur denote their company markings on their knees. But I'm going to make him a 3rd Company Marine, so we'll use Mephiston red. So now we're moving on to transfers. His right pauldron is going to get a tactical marking. I'm going to make him a tactical marine in the 7th squad of the 3rd Company. I was originally planning to give him an assault marking, but I completely forgot about that at this point. After cutting out those transfers, I put a few drops of water on them. Next I'm going to use Microscale from Microscale Industries. This will help the decal adhere to the surface. You can see I adjust it with the tweezers and the brush. The tweezers seem to be more precise, while the brush lets you get the air pockets out from underneath the decal. I align the decal with the underside of the pauldron. There's a little cutout at the bottom near the elbow. That's a great way to align to the centre. After letting that set and putting a few coats of Microscale on, I get the next decal. I applied some Microscale off camera when it was dry. At the end I'll cover the pauldrons with matte varnish to reduce any shininess. I added some Abaddon black to the pauldrons after I noticed the other side was a bit dark. I just want to keep them roughly the same brightness. And then I added some Scrimmer pink to the sword hilt. Pretty simple, but you know, does the job. And then we're on to Leadbelcher finally. So we're going to do the bolt pistol, the power pack, the sword, little things on his helmet, little tubing. You can see I go around the rim of the exhausts. Now I also do these little power nodes. For other models, weapons plug into these. You can see we're doing the helmet now, the tubing. I'm going to do the grill, the tubes, and the earpieces. Here we are onto a dark grey wash. I feel like this is a good replacement for the original Nuln oil. And here you can see a comparison with and without the wash. We'll put some Rhinox hide for the belt now. Here we're onto the eyes. We start with some Warpstone glow. Carefully brush it in, both sides with the tip. I definitely should have used a smaller brush for this, but luckily it's pretty wet, so I can just rub off anything that goes over the edge. Now I'm going to mix a bit of Moot green into the Warpstone glow. I find the Moot green might be a bit bright, because the armor's already so bright. So if I mix them together, I might get a bit of a better finish. I'm just going to dot it in towards the front of the eyes. I could absolutely just go with one colour in these. It was already pretty bright, but now I'm doing some Chlorax white to just bring up the brightness on the pauldron. I did paint them in Ulthuan grey originally, so they were a bit darker than you'd expect. And here we got some Pylar Glacier. I'm just going to cover the entire sword with this to give it like some sort of electronic hue. And while it dries, I'm going to put some Poxwalker around. This is the weathering step that I mentioned earlier. It's going to dot this around a lot of the armour just to make it look like it's actual brass. We know that the armour's made of ceramite and stuff like that, but I imagine they use like a brass plating or something. And there you can see the Poxwalker finished. Does pretty nicely. Going over the rest of the gun chassis now. I was originally painting it in the style I saw in a photo, but I decided against it. A bit too much brass. So now we're onto the basing. I'm going to put PVA glue all over the base first. Full coverage, make sure it goes all the way to the edge. I did put Rhinox hide on first, so that way anything that the basing material doesn't cover, the Rhinox hide will show through. I used some Geek Gaming Scenics Scrublands, which is just a ready-made mix that they offer. I just dunk it in and then rub the edges off with my fingers. Now after that's set, I paint the edges with black, and then I gave it an ultra matte varnish, and it was done. I want to keep painting different chapters. If you have any suggestions of which ones I should paint next, pop them down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you in the next one.